On Vaticano this week, we hear from the new American in the Holy See's office for the new Evangelization. Bishops from all over the Western world, including Salina, Kansas, take part in the Baby Bishop Seminar. Pope Benedict XVI recalls his recent trip to Lebanon during the general audience. A book on the Second Vatican Council is presented on the eve of the 50th anniversary of its inauguration. Experts debate the language of the body at Rome's John Paul II Institute, while these men prepare to leave for the missions. The Pope speaks of humility as the way to God at the Angelus, and this Blessed John Paul II statue is unveiled again. All this coming up on Vaticano. This priest has just arrived in the Eternal City to take up the reins as the first ever American in the Vatican's new Evangelization office. For him, all roads lead to Rome.
I'd spent the last 4 years building a Catholic Center for Evangelization for the diocese, and it was really the dream of Bishop Arthur Serratelli, the Bishop of Paterson. And I had led a pilgrimage of young adults here to Rome a little over a year and a half ago, and my bishop thought it was a good idea to share with the new Pontifical Council for Evangelization and Archbishop Fisichella what we were really doing with new evangelization in the Diocese of Paterson, in St. Paul, inside the walls. So I had a wonderful meeting here in Rome with Archbishop Fisichella, and then about 3/4 of a year later, he spoke to my bishop, and my bishop had asked me if this would be something that I would have liked to have done. So I began here on July 2nd, and I really had a wonderful experience at home trying to put together an approach to new evangelization for the state of New Jersey, really northern New Jersey, that would help outreach and welcome people home to the church, and maybe help people who feel that God is no longer important in life to see the great value of having belief in the practice of the faith.
Father Silva invites young people and adults to rediscover their faith at the Paterson Diocese's St. Paul Center.
It really was just in the beginning stages, but it was working. And it's exciting how it's going on now, and I'm hoping to be able to bring some of that experience of learning what's worked, what hasn't worked, because so much of what I've tried to do in planning the Center for Evangelization was listening to the hearts and the souls of so many people as to what do they really need from the institutional church right now to help them come back home. How can we form halfway houses for them to know that they have a place in the church? And so that's really what I was doing. Before that, I was running a Catholic high school, so a lot of my background is with youth and young adults. When I was just a young priest, I had started and worked with a program called Young Prophets for inner city children in the city of Paterson, trying to help them come to know Christ. So I've done a lot of different things.
And that's what he'll continue to do in an expanded capacity in his new role at the Pontifical Council for the new Evangelization.
Well, I have to say, working for Archbishop Fisichella and being on the council is really exciting, because right now the Pontifical Council, being new, is really open to the ideas of dreaming the future of the church in new evangelization, being able to try new things and to move forward with new things. So it's really exciting to be able to start on the council with the opening of the Year of Faith as well, because so many of the initiatives for the Year of Faith are really coming under the leadership of Archbishop Fisichella and the Pontifical Council. So I'm really just starting in this, but what I've seen and what has been so great is the openness, but also the excitement that the members of the council have for the new evangelization and really for the salvation of souls. How can we help people come to know Christ and taste that joy that can only come from the one who is the author of life, Jesus Christ?
As the Vatican welcomes Father Silva's contributions, pilgrims to the city of Rome are already benefiting from his ideas. As of October 14, he'll be presiding over an English Mass just down the street from St. Peter's at the Church of Santo Spirito in Sassia every Sunday at 10 a.m. Here on the grounds of the Pontifical Regina Apostolorum University in Rome, a special gathering took place in September. Informally, it's called the Baby Bishops Seminar.
Yes, it's a long while since I was a baby, actually, and it's a long while since I was ordained a priest too. For many of the new bishops, they perhaps haven't had the experience that I've had in a lot of the administration or the canonical area of the church. But being in Rome, I think it's important because it's a pilgrimage to the tomb of St. Peter, but it's also a great degree of fraternity among the bishops, that you, as a bishop, you're a member of the College of Bishops, successors of the Apostles, and I'm meeting people from all parts of the world here. There's just over 100 new bishops here, and it's wonderful to meet them, to listen to where they're coming from and what their ideals are, and I would hope that we'll continue some contact with one another. There are a couple of new bishops here from another 2 bishops from Australia here too, so that's great too.
For the new bishops, it opened their eyes to the breadth of their role as pastors.
One cardinal from Germany referred it to bishop's kindergarten. It's a class, a colloquium is the term they use. It's a gathering together, and they bring in excellent speakers to cover all different areas of church life. At the moment, we're in the midst of covering Eastern rites and bishops in full communion churches. There are 22 sui juris, fully independent churches that are in full communion with the Holy See. And there are actually some new bishops from those churches as part of the colloquium as well. Bishops really are not ordained for an individual diocese. They're ordained for the universal church. And the experience of being here is a wonderful time for us to get to know each other, not only the other bishops of our nation. I'm not exactly sure how many Americans there are here. I think there's about 15 or 16. But there are about 100 here right now from really all different parts of the world. So it's a very ecumenical experience in the sense of broad and universal. I was ordained a bishop on May 1st, the feast of St. Joseph the Worker. It was delightful because when I met the Pope, the Holy Father, during the ad limina visit earlier in the spring, he asked me when I would be ordained. I told him May the 1st. He became very animated and delightful and promised to remember me because that's a special feast day for him, St. Joseph the Worker. So I've been bishop a little more than 4 months. It's been a wonderful time. The reception of the people has been extraordinary. They've been very, very kind and welcoming. And I know it sounds rote, but in my case it's very true. I feel very at home there very quickly.
Through initiatives such as this one, the bishops' class of 2011-2012 is getting off to a good start in their dioceses around the Western world. The Pope welcomed pilgrims to the Vatican on the 19th of September. He spoke about his recent trip to Lebanon.
Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, today I would like to reflect on my recent apostolic journey to Lebanon. It is its first priority, the consigning of the post-synodal apostolic exhortation, Ecclesia in Medio Oriente, to the representatives of the Catholic Church from Lebanon and throughout the Middle East. I also had occasion to meet the representatives to other churches and ecclesial communities from the region, as well as Muslim leaders. I was able to speak from the heart, to stand before the sufferings and the dramatic events in the Middle East, and to express my prayerful encouragement for the legitimate aspirations for peace there. I was deeply moved by the faith of the local church, and I asked the faithful to keep their gaze fixed on Christ crucified, so in finding the strength amid trying circumstances, to celebrate the victory of love over hate, of forgiveness over revenge, and of unity over division. I wish also to express my gratitude to the Muslim community, whose leaders welcomed me warmly, and whom I proposed a message of dialogue and of collaboration. Finally, my thanks go once more to all who worked to make my visit to Lebanon so memorable, and I assure all the dear people of the Middle East of my prayers and affection. Dear
friends, the days spent in Lebanon were a wonderful manifestation of faith and religious feeling and a prophetic sign of peace. The multitude of believers from the entire Middle East has had the opportunity to reflect, to talk, and especially to pray together, renewing their commitment to root their lives in Christ. I am sure that the people of Lebanon, in its varied but well-blended religious and social composition, will witness with a new impetus to true peace, which is born from faith in God. I hope that the messages of peace and respect that I wanted to give could help governments of the region to take decisive steps towards peace and a better understanding of the relationship between Christians and Muslims. For my part, I continue to accompany those beloved people in prayer so that they remain faithful to their commitments. To the maternal intercession of Mary, venerated in so many and ancient Lebanese shrines, I entrust the fruits of this pastoral visit, as well as the good intentions and the just aspirations of the entire Middle East. Thank you.
Medio Oriente. Grazie. Sit nomen Domini benedictum.
Et hoc nunc usque in saeculum,
Adiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
qui fecit caelum et terra.
Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus.
Amen.
Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
These men have just wrapped up a crash course to become missionaries. After arriving in their destination countries next Sunday, the idea is that they'll be there for the rest of their lives.
For me, it's like part of the act of obedience. I offered myself and I said I'm willing to go wherever I am needed, not just going anywhere. And the congregation asked me to go to Bangladesh.
So from the side of the community.
For me, it's been quite enriching because it's really preparation, both physical and spiritual, for the mission ahead. You know, we've been packed with lots of inputs, like preparation to face a new culture, enculturation, and also we've done some kind of visits to places that are in line with faith, the origin of our faith. And for me, it's quite enriching. You know, it's like getting to the main source.
Classes run for 25 days. They are divided between a week to study the culture of their host nation, a week to study the nature of missionary work, and a third week to make a pilgrimage to Turin. This man is in charge of their formation.
The main goal would be to be ready and to face the first difficulties of the mission. And of course, probably the most important element is to deepen the missionary spirituality of each missionary, which is not just a spirituality, but is a complex of preparation to face the cultural shock, to be strong enough and to know, to manage the dynamics on the psychological point of view, as well to be ready to merge and to contribute to the international communities, which are in most of the mission places already reality.
Each of these men belongs to the Salesian order, that of the 19th century Italian St. John Bosco. Inspired by him, they hope to carry the word of God to places like Siberia, Sudan, and Japan, but also to Great Britain and Ireland.
My job description is to help all the 16,000 Salesians to be better missionaries. And of course, this group is like the top of the iceberg, those who are living and who make visible the missionary spirit of all Salesians, because by nature we are called to be missionaries of the young people everywhere, anywhere. But those who are living their own culture, their own country, for other continent, and there is now no one way, there is always two ways. The Europeans go to Africa, Africans go to Asia, Asians to America. So this connection among the 5 continents is something which makes our congregation more Catholic in this sense. When Don Bosco was alive, about 1/5, 20% of the Salesians did work already in the missions. At the moment, we have about 500 novices every year, and about 50 Salesians every year are moving towards the missions. That means it is 10%, more or less. But definitely now, the missionary life, missionary spirit is, I believe, requirement for anybody in any place of the world, because you like or not, the world became a missionary territory everywhere.
And with this, these men are setting out to bring hope to the world as fishers of men. This is among the first of many similar initiatives that will mark the next year around the Vatican. It's a book presentation at Vatican Radio for the volume titled The Future of the Council, the Second Vatican Council, that is.
It's not just a theological or historical study, but most of all, it's an educational work that will permit people, especially young people, to understand this great event of the Universal Church better, which happened 50 years ago, and they don't have any knowledge of it.
On October 11, 1962, the Second Vatican Ecumenical Council was opened by Pope John XXIII. More than 2,000 bishops and leading church experts met in 4 long sessions over 3 years to address modern world challenges. 16 documents were written that continue to guide the course of the Church today. There are those who continue to say that Vatican II marked a point of rupture in the history of the Church. But Pope Benedict XVI and his predecessors have always said it was a moment of grace and continuity.
It's an immense effort that needs to be carried out. But it is vital because Vatican II was the response of the Church in the name of Christ and the word of the Lord to bring about the universal good. And it is an effort that has to be evaluated, studied, applied, and lived. But the center is the Church, from within and from without. Surely 50 years for some people is a large piece of the history of a lifetime. But for a church council, on the other hand, it's a bit less. It is like all the councils. You need a lot of time to get to know, deepen, interpret, and receive the councils. And in this, we have to have a little bit of patience. Patience doesn't mean we cross our arms and don't do anything. Rather, we are trying to do many things during this anniversary.
The council was a great moment of freedom within the Church. The fact that it brought bishops from all over the world to Rome who had never met before and who needed to meet together with and around the Pope, all of them praying together with the same Father, was fundamental to understanding that a moment of reflection, of actualization, was necessary for the Church to be able to newly proclaim the witness of the Gospel, because this, in substance, is the message that the Church brings to man.
Certainly, this year will be a chance for many in the world to revisit the Council along with the Vatican. The beauty of God's plan for marriage was discussed here at the Pope John Paul II Center for Marriage and Family in Rome. The 2-day colloquium focused on the language of the body and the conjugal union last week.
The goal of the Congress is to examine, to analyze what una caro, what a conjugal union really is, the richness of this union, how it is made in light of the Creator. It is a union that is possible because we have received a body, male and female. It is a union that allows me to be for the other, to dwell in the other and to receive the other in me. It is a union that opens up to life, that is fruitful, and therefore that is a richness for society. I think this last point is very important, that conjugal union is not just between me and you, but it is open to the whole of society. And I think this, the reflection in this Congress has been very fruitful in this regard. We will then publish the proceedings of the conference, but we have had different experts in different areas, psychology, sociology, theology, philosophy, scripture, looking into this topic.
Participants examined different aspects of the conjugal union and its profound importance for society and for the individual.
I think that the first thing to do is to understand the beauty of God's plan for man and woman, for all of us. And that Christianity is not the solution of problems that they may have, but the proposal of something beautiful and great, which is a call to love, what John Paul II called this way a call to love. I think that if in the first way we are attracted, we let ourselves be attracted by this great call, we can understand its truth and build up a life that in the end becomes fruitful. To look at the family not as a problem but as a way, and a way for the church that helps build up the church. I think that's something that can be a fruit also of the Congress. Also in the sense that the family is crucial for the new evangelization. Now we live in a society that is no longer Christian, is post-Christian, we could say, regards Christ as something from the past, and the family can make us aware again of these original experiences of love that allows us to receive Christ in a new way as something that opens up a future, not only something from the past.
The purpose of the event really is to spend time among academics talking about the one flesh union and the conjugal act in particular, and its weight both in the human sense, in human love, and its transcendent sense in Christ and the Church. Well, the deeper understanding that's being discussed here on the one flesh union and the conjugal union relating to the conjugal act or then relating to marriage really is sort of the foundational understanding. The next step really will be in being able to communicate this to those intending to be married, those who are already married, those maybe even broken by marriage. There really needs to be a new dialogue in understanding what marriage is in its human relation and its effective sense, as well as the transcendent meaning, so that the two can come together in a way that's understandable by those who are living it, but also connected more deeply to the truth of what marriage and marital relation is.
While the talk was being held, the Holy Father met separately with a group of bishops from France. With a message related to that of the conference, he told them that marriage and the family must be promoted and defended from every possible misrepresentation of their true nature. He said whatever is injurious to them is in fact injurious to human coexistence.
Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
Pope Benedict XVI prayed the Angelus with the faithful here at Castel Gandolfo last Sunday. He called upon Christians to follow the example of Jesus Christ in becoming last of all and servants of all.
Following the Lord always requires a profound conversion on the part of man, a change in his or her way of thinking and living. It requires an openness of heart in order to listen and allow oneself to be enlightened and transformed from within. A key point in which God and man are different is pride. God has no pride because he is absolute fullness and is completely given to love and the giving of love. In us, on the other hand, pride is deeply rooted and requires constant vigilance and purification. We who are small desire to appear great, to be the first, while God does not fear to humble himself and make himself the last.
This was the second to last Angelus at Castel Gandolfo before the Holy Father returns to Rome for the rest of the year. Here next to Rome's central train station, this statue of Blessed John Paul II is about to be unveiled for the second time. After it was first inaugurated a year and a half ago, the statue was received poorly internationally, so the city is giving it another try.
C'è stata una cattiva esecuzione della fonderia.
There was a poor execution materially, which was incorrect for different reasons. The sculpture lost its lightness and also a bit of its meaning. The blowing of the wind was meant to be something subtle, not inflated or distorted, but these were mistakes of inches, not feet.
So after months of work, this is the new face of the Pope.
So what changed? Take a look at the model. There are three changes that pertain to each part of the cape. This one, and this one over here. It was all one piece that was more geometrically shaped before. He had a bigger head, because looking upwards, it would have seemed too small. They added to his neck. The head is much like it was before, it's just that the skull cap is more easily seen. His face has been changed, as well as the direction of his gaze. The work is the synthesis of a human person, spirituality and humanity, which consists of a welcoming nature and sacrifice. And I express this through an ethereal body, not a physical body, but by way of wind, which is the spirit that fills the interior and converts it, emptying itself into the origins. It's a bit complicated, but it is transmitted through the cape, the gesture of welcoming. So if you take a moment to focus on it, you don't have to be a theologian to understand it.
I was always happy with it, from the beginning, because a contemporary work of art cannot ever be judged. Popular spirituality had accepted the work because here outdoors on the sidewalk outside the station, at night there were candles, pieces of poetry, and portraits left out of devotion to John Paul II. This, as they say in Greek, is a sema, or a signal, a sign, a symbol of the city of Rome, the city of the Pope.
But it will still be up to popular opinion to judge the work of a much-loved Pope who lives on in the memory of the world.